Chief, is it true? Did you lie to the city?
The palace was silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence that comes with sleep, but the heavy kind that comes after disgrace. Chief Adikana Adibeo, once the most powerful man in the city, sat alone on the cold marble floor of his mansion. His expensive agbada lay discarded beside him like a fallen crown. Outside, journalists shouted,
Chief, is it true? Did you lie to the city?
"Who is really Baron?" He did not answer. Because for the first time in his life, money could not save him. A single sentence echoed in his head, louder than the noise outside.
The problem was never my wife, but I chose silence.
7 years earlier, Chief Adikana Adibeo was not a broken man. He was a king in a modern world. His mansion stood on a hill overlooking the city, glass, gold, and tradition blended into one intimidating masterpiece. His convoy stretched long enough to stop traffic. Politicians bowed. Pastors prayed extra prayers when he entered church. And beside him stood his wife, Mario Adibeo. Quiet, graceful, educated, beautiful in a way that didn't beg for attention. She had been with him before the money multiplied, before the titles, before the praise. People admired them. But admiration is fragile. At first, the whispers were gentle. They are still young. Children will come. Then they grew sharp. What kind of woman marries a chief and gives him nothing? Maybe she angered the gods. Mario heard them at weddings, at naming ceremonies, even in church. Every smile she received carried a hidden question. Her body became public property. Her womb, public debate. She went for prayers. She went for tests. She drank bitter herbs she did not understand. And every time, the doctor said the same thing. "Madam, you are fine." She told her husband. He nodded. Changed the topic. Avoided eye contact. Mario thought it was stress. She did not know it was fear. Chief Adikana knew the truth. He had known before the marriage. The doctors had told him quietly, respectfully, painfully. "Sir, this will be difficult." But how does a man like him say such words aloud? How does a chief tell a woman he cannot give her children? So he chose silence. And silence became a lie. One evening, after attending yet another naming ceremony where Maria was pitted openly, the chief made a decision. Not out of wisdom. Out of pride. He would marry another wife. If the second wife gives birth, he thought, the problem was never me. And if she didn't? He refused to imagine that. Her name was Zora. A social media slay queen. Sharp nails. Loud laughter. Designer labels and influencer confidence. She was everything Maria was not. And the city rejoiced. Now we will see the truth. Let the younger one prove herself. Maria stood quietly as her husband brought another woman into their home. Her heart cracked, but she said nothing. Because in her mind, she was the problem. That night, Maria knelt beside her bed and whispered, "God, if I am the problem, take the shame away." Somewhere else in the mansion, Zara smiled into her phone and typed, "New chapter. New blessings loading." And in his room, the chief stared at the ceiling, unaware that his greatest trouble had just entered his house. The music stopped. The chatter froze. Zara stood in the center of the palace courtyard, phone raised, smile wide, camera recording. Then she said the words that would change everything. "I'm pregnant." For 3 seconds, the world did not breathe. Then the screams came. Women all related. Men clapped. Drums started without warning. Someone shouted, "The heir is coming." Across the courtyard, Maria felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. She smiled. because that was what a good wife was expected to do. But inside her chest, something collapsed quietly, like a house giving up after years of storms. From that day, Zara was no longer just a second wife. She became the one who did it. The city adored her. Bloggers posted her pictures daily. Pastors used her story as testimony. Elders nodded knowingly. So the problem was clear. Some women are just unlucky. Mariel became invisible. At gatherings, chairs were moved away from her. At events, people whispered louder when she passed. Children were pulled from her side. Don't let her carry the baby. Barrenness can rub off. She heard everything. And every night, she washed her face and prayed harder. Zara played her role well. Very well. She wore loose dresses. She complained of cravings. She took pictures with one hand on her belly. Always the same angle. But she never went to antenatal publicly. There was always an excuse. My doctor is abroad. The chief wants privacy. Evil eyes are everywhere. Chief Adikona believed her. Or maybe, he needed to believe her. Because if Zara was truly pregnant, then he was safe. His secret would remain buried. Maria watched from a distance. She noticed small things. Zara's body did not change. Her moods did not align. Her complaints felt rehearsed. But Maria said nothing. Because who would believe a barren woman? One afternoon, while Zara live-streamed herself dancing lightly at a party, Maria turned off her phone and whispered to herself. Something is wrong. She did not know yet what was wrong. Only that the truth was trembling beneath the surface. It happened unexpectedly. During a family meeting, an elder suggested a hospital check. Let us thank God officially, he said. Zara laughed nervously. Oh, Baba, no need now. But the elders insisted. The chief hesitated. For the first time, fear touched him, not pride. The hospital visit was scheduled. Zara did not sleep that night. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and truth. Zara sat stiffly, sunglasses still on, even indoors. The nurse smiled politely. Madam, we will start with a simple scan. Minutes passed. Silence stretched. The nurse frowned. She called another nurse. Then the doctor. The room felt smaller. Finally, the doctor cleared his throat. Madam, there is no pregnancy. The words fell like a plate shattering on marble. Zara laughed. Too loudly. That's impossible. The doctor shook his head gently. I am sorry. Outside, Mariel felt a strange calm she did not understand. Inside, the chief felt his knees weaken. News travels fast in the city. Faster when it is sweet. By evening, blogs had posted. Chief's wife faked pregnancy. The same people who praised Zara now mocked her. Her comment section turned cruel. The palace gates closed against her. She was questioned. Cornered. Exposed. And for the first time, Zara cried, not for love, but for shame. That night, Mariel did something unexpected. She slept peacefully. Not because she was happy, but because a heavy lie had cracked open. Still, one question burned in her mind. If Zara was never pregnant, then why am I blamed? The answer waited quietly in the dark. Days later, the chief could no longer carry the weight. His power felt hollow. His name felt heavy. One night, he sat across from Mariel. No titles. No authority. Just a tired man. Mariel, he said softly, there is something you must know. The truth spilled, slowly, painfully. Mariel listened. Her face did not change. When he finished, the silence screamed. Then she laughed. Not with joy. With disbelief. So I was punished for your silence, she said. The chief bowed his head. Maria did not confront Zara with anger. She visited her quietly. Two women sat across from each other. Both wounded, both blamed. Zara looked up, eyes swollen. I lied, she whispered. Maria nodded. And I suffered for it. For the first time, they saw each other clearly. Not as rivals, but as victims of the same pride. They talked all night. About insults. About loneliness. About shame. And then, a decision formed. Not revenge. Not violence. But justice wrapped in lesson. He must feel what we felt, Zara said quietly. Maria nodded slowly. The plan did not involve noise. It involved silence. Distance. Reflection. That same night, the chief walked into an empty sitting room. No greeting. No food. No laughter. Only space. For the first time, the palace felt cold. And somewhere in that silence, the chief realized. His trouble had only just begun. Power does not always live with noise. Sometimes, it lives with silence. Chief Adikona Adibeo noticed it on the third morning. No hot water prepared early. No greeting echoing through the halls. No familiar footsteps following his own. The palace was still standing. But somehow, it no longer belonged to him. And he did not yet understand why. Maria and Zora did not shout. They did not insult him. They did not fight. They simply withdrew. Maria stopped managing palace affairs. Zara stopped performing happiness. Meals were eaten separately. Conversations ended before they began. The staff noticed. Oga, should we prepare dinner? For who? The chief asked. The servants exchanged glances. No one answered. Chief Adikana had survived scandals before. Business rivals. Political storms. Public criticism. But this was different. This was personal. At night, he lay awake, staring at the ceiling that once symbolized his success. Now it felt like a courtroom. Every memory questioned him. Mario kneeling in prayer. Zara being mocked publicly. His silence. Mario returned to herself. She began dressing brighter. Walking taller. Speaking firmer. Zara, stripped of attention and luxury, began to see clearly. I wanted to win, Zara admitted one afternoon. But I didn't know the game was rigged. Maria looked at her gently. Neither did I. They laughed quietly. Not because it was funny. But because pain finally had company. Whispers returned to the city. But this time, they sounded different. Why is the palace quiet? Why does the chief attend events alone? Bloggers speculated. Elders questioned. Pastors avoided the topic. The chief's influence remained, but his confidence thinned. He had everything. Yet he was alone. One evening, unable to endure it anymore, the chief gathered courage. He stood before both women. No guards. No authority. Just truth trembling on his lips. What do you want? He asked quietly. Maria looked at him steadily. We wanted truth, she said. But you gave us shame. Zara added softly. You let the world insult us so you could remain a man. The words struck deeper than any accusation. That night, the chief broke. Not loudly. Not dramatically. He knelt. A man who once never bent to anyone now bent to his own household. I was afraid, he whispered. Afraid of losing respect. Maria replied calmly. You lost something greater. Silence followed. Heavy. Necessary. Truth has a way of escaping even the strongest walls. Slowly, carefully, the story leaked, Not as gossip, but as understanding. People softened. Some apologized. Others reflected. The blame shifted. And for the first time, Mariel walked freely among people without lowered eyes. Weeks later, a quiet conversation took place. Not about blame. Not about revenge. But about the future. What if our blessing does not come the usual way? Mariel asked. Zara nodded. The chief listened. For the first time, he did not lead the conversation. He followed. As they sat together, 3 wounded souls learning humility. A knock came at the palace gate. 2 small voices laughed outside. And the chief felt something unfamiliar stir in his chest. Not fear. Hope. The knock on the palace gate was soft. So soft that, on any other day, it would have been ignored. But that evening, the house was already listening. Mariel looked up first. Zara followed. Chief Adikona froze. Outside, 2 children laughed, pure, careless laughter that did not know shame, titles, or past mistakes. For reasons none of them could explain, their hearts shifted. They were not royal. Their clothes were clean but worn. Their shoes mismatched. Their smiles untrained. A woman from a nearby charity stood with them. They were playing too close to the gate, she said apologetically. I thought I should bring them in. Mariel knelt instinctively. The little girl tilted her head. Is this a castle? She asked. Mariel smiled for the first time in weeks. Something like that. The chief watched from behind. His chest tightened. That night, after the children left, silence returned, but it felt different. Not cold. Thoughtful. Zara broke it. What if family doesn't come the way we planned? The chief inhaled sharply. Mariel did not rush to answer. She stared at the empty couch where the children had sat. What if love is not limited to blood, she said. The question lingered. Chief Adikona wrestled internally. Adoption felt like surrender. Like admitting defeat to the world. What will people say? He finally asked. Mariel met his eyes. They already said everything, she replied calmly. That night, the chief slept poorly. But for the first time, it was not guilt keeping him awake. It was change. Days later, Zara surprised them. She packed her designer bags. I need to step back, she said. Not to run, but to grow. Mariel held her hand. There was no jealousy left. Only understanding. We heal differently, Mariel said. But we heal together. Zara nodded, tears forming. The adoption center smelled like fresh paint and patience. Children ran freely. Some smiled too hard. Others watched quietly. The chief felt exposed. Mariel felt at home. Zara felt nervous. Then they saw them. A boy and a girl, siblings, holding hands. The boy stood protectively. The girl leaned trustingly. The world narrowed. The boy looked up at the chief. Are you staying? He asked. The chief swallowed. He had signed many contracts. None scared him like that question. I hope so, he said softly. And for the first time in his life, the answer was honest. Adoption was not instant. Forms. Background checks. Interviews. Waiting. The chief learned patience. Mariel learned joy. Zara learned humility. The city watched quietly. Some mocked. Some admired. But the palace kept breathing. On the night before the final approval, the chief stood alone again. But this time, he was not broken. He was grateful. He whispered into the quiet room. I understand now. The call came early the next morning. Mariel answered. Her hand trembled. Her face softened. She looked at the chief and Zora. They are coming home. The palace doors open wide. Not for power. For love. The palace gates open slowly. Not with trumpets. Not with drums. Not with celebration. But with anticipation. Chief Adikana stood at the entrance, hands clasped behind him, his expensive cap resting uneasily on his head. For the first time in years, he was not thinking about how he looked. He was thinking about who he was becoming. Beside him stood Mareo, calm, steady, glowing in a quiet way. A few steps behind them, Zara lingered, nervous but hopeful. A car pulled in. Two small heads appeared at the window. And the world paused. The boy stepped out first. Still cautious. Still protective. The girl followed, gripping his hand tightly. Mareo knelt immediately, arms open. "Welcome home," she said softly. The girl hesitated, then ran into her arms. The boy watched. Then slowly, bravely, he stepped forward too. Chief Adikana felt his throat close. This was not how power felt. This was heavier. That evening, the palace sounded different. Footsteps ran freely. Laughter bounced off walls that once echoed silence. The children explored cautiously, touching sofas, staring at chandeliers, whispering questions. "Is all this really ours?" the girl asked. Mareo smiled. "It's ours together." The chief watched from a distance. Every laugh chipped away at his old pride. And he welcomed it. News spread, but this time, it carried warmth. The chief adopted children. His house is full again. Some mocked quietly. Others nodded in respect. Elders spoke among themselves. Maybe wealth is not what we thought. For once, the city was not judging a woman's womb. They were watching a man's growth. Days later, the chief gathered his household. Not for orders. For truth. He stood before Mareo and Zora, no title, no authority. "I failed you," he said clearly. "I chose pride over honesty." He turned to Mareo. "You carried shame that was never yours." Then to Zora. "You entered a story already broken." Silence followed. Then Mareo spoke. "We forgive you," she said. "But remember, truth is cheaper than lies." Zora nodded. "And silence is not peace." The chief bowed his head. Zora did not remain in the palace permanently. She chose independence. Healing. Growth. She visited often, bringing gifts, laughter, lessons learned the hard way. Mareo remained the anchor. The children flourished. And the chief learned something no title had taught him. Listen. Months later, during a public festival, the chief stood before the city. Children by his side. Wife beside him. No speech was planned. But he spoke anyway. "I once believed wealth could hide truth," he said. "I was wrong." The crowd listened. A family is not built by pride, but by honesty. There was no applause at first. Then slowly, it came. Not loud. But sincere. That night, Mareo watched the children sleep peacefully. She whispered a prayer, not for fertility, but for wisdom. Zara watched from the doorway, smiling softly. The chief stood alone briefly, then joined them. Not as a ruler. As a father. In every generation, shame looks for a woman to blame. But wisdom asks harder questions. And sometimes, the greatest blessing does not come from blood, but from truth, humility, and love. The palace lights dimmed. The city slept. And Chief Adikana Adibeo, once powerful, once broken, finally understood what it meant to be rich. A home built on truth will stand.